2:07 a.m. The world is asleep. Your body is exhausted. You should be in the deepest part of your sleep cycle right now. But you're not. Instead, you're lying in the dark, replaying a conversation from 3 years ago, or rehearsing one that will never happen. Your mind is scrolling through every mistake you've made this week, every decision you need to make tomorrow, every fear you've been avoiding.
This is the hour when your brain becomes louder than the silence around you. You've tried everything. Counting sheep, breathing exercises, that meditation app you downloaded last month. Nothing works. Because the moment you close your eyes, the thoughts come flooding back, stronger, louder, more real than they felt during the day. Old conversations you wish you could rewrite, future disasters you're convinced will happen, questions that spiral into more questions. And underneath it all, one thought that won't leave you alone. What is wrong with me?
But here's what nobody tells you. Nothing is wrong with you. Your mind isn't malfunctioning. It's doing exactly what it was designed to do. Why your brain won't shut up at 2 a.m.
A study in consciousness. To understand why your mind won't shut up at 2 a.m., we need to understand what happens to your brain after midnight. During the day, your brain is constantly processing external stimuli, conversations, traffic, emails, the sound of your coworker chewing. Your attention is scattered across 1,000 tiny demands. But at 2 a.m., the world goes silent, and that's when everything changes.
There's a network in your brain called the default mode network. Neuroscientists call it the DMN. Think of it as your brain's screensaver mode. When you're not focused on external tasks, when there's nothing demanding your attention, the DMN activates.
And this is where things get interesting. The default mode network doesn't rest. It doesn't power down. Instead, it does something far more complex. It turns inward.
Your DMN starts scanning through memories, not just recent ones, old ones, childhood moments, past relationships, things you thought you'd forgotten. It simulates future scenarios, conversations that haven't happened, decisions you haven't made, outcomes you can't predict. It analyzes social interactions. Did they mean what they said? Did I sound stupid? Do they think less of me now?
During the day, this process happens in the background. Your conscious mind is too busy to notice. But at 2 a.m., when the external world disappears, the internal world becomes deafening.
Now, here's the part most people don't know. Your brain's emotional regulation system, the part that helps you keep perspective, that filters catastrophic thinking, that tells you it's not that serious. That system is weakened at night. There's a hormone called cortisol. You might know it as the stress hormone. But it's more than that. Cortisol acts as an emotional buffer. It helps your brain distinguish between real threats and imagined ones. During the day, cortisol levels are higher. Your brain has the resources to regulate anxiety. But between midnight and 4 a.m., cortisol hits its lowest point.
Which means every thought becomes heavier, every fear feels more real, every worry transforms into certainty.
This isn't a bug in your system, it's a feature. Thousands of years ago, nighttime was the most dangerous time for humans. Predators hunted in the dark. Rival tribes attacked at dawn. Our ancestors who survived were the ones who stayed vigilant, the ones whose minds wouldn't shut up. Your brain is programmed to scan for threats in the darkness, to replay past mistakes so you don't repeat them, to simulate future dangers so you can prepare. The problem is, you're no longer in a cave. The threats aren't outside your window, they're inside your head. And this is where most people get trapped, because they don't understand the difference between thinking and being thought. There's a difference between thinking deeply about something and being trapped in a loop of overthinking. Most people can't tell the difference. Let me show you. Deep thinking is when you observe a problem from multiple angles. You consider options, you gain clarity, and then you move forward. Overthinking is when you circle the same thoughts again and again. You find no new information, no clarity, no resolution, just exhaustion. Deep thinking transforms experience into wisdom. Overthinking transforms worry into suffering. Here's the trap most people fall into. They believe that thinking more about a problem will give them more control over it. It won't. If you've been thinking about the same problem for 3 hours at 2 a.m., you're not solving it, you're rehearsing it. You're running the same mental simulation over and over, hoping that this time you'll think of the perfect thing to say, the perfect decision to make, the perfect way to avoid disaster. But here's what actually happens. The more you think about it, the more anxious you become. The more anxious you become, the harder it is to sleep. The harder it is to sleep, the more your brain spins. And by morning, you're not closer to an answer. You're just exhausted. There's something else that happens at night, something most people won't admit. During the day, we wear masks. We perform our roles. The competent professional, the reliable friend, the person who has it all together. But at 2 a.m., the mask falls away. And what's underneath, what's been hiding beneath the performance all day, finally speaks. The fear you've been avoiding, the grief you haven't processed, the disappointment you won't name. This is why nighttime overthinking feels so intense. It's not just mental noise. It's the voice of everything you've been running from. And this is where most people stay trapped, because they don't know there's another way. But 2,000 years ago, there was a man who understood this mind better than any modern therapist. A man who couldn't sleep. A man who overthought everything. A man who learned to escape the trap. Marcus Aurelius, Emperor of Rome, most powerful man in the known world, and every night he couldn't sleep. He had everything a person could want: wealth, power, respect. But at 2 a.m., none of that mattered, because his mind wouldn't shut up. So he did something unusual. Instead of fighting his sleeplessness, he wrote about it. These writings became known as meditations, not a book meant for publication, not a philosophical treatise for students, just a man talking to himself in the dark, trying to make sense of his own mind. And in those pages, he discovered something that modern neuroscience is only now beginning to understand. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. The Stoics understood something fundamental about the human mind. Most of our suffering doesn't come from what happens to us. It comes from what we think about what happens to us. Two people can experience the exact same situation and have completely different internal experiences. Why? Because one is consumed by their thoughts about it, and the other observes their thoughts about it. The difference between suffering and peace is the distance between you and your thoughts. The Stoics called this the dichotomy of control. It's simple, brutally simple. There are things you control and things you don't. You control your judgments, your interpretations, your responses. You don't control other people, past events, future outcomes, what happened today, what might happen tomorrow. At 2 a.m., your brain is spinning because it's trying to control things it can't control. You're replaying a conversation, trying to change what was already said. You're rehearsing a future scenario, trying to predict what hasn't happened. You're analyzing someone's words, trying to control what they think of you. You can't, and your brain knows this. That's why it won't stop. But here's what Marcus Aurelius learned, and here's what the Stoics practiced for centuries. You don't need to fight your thoughts. You don't need to silence them. You need to do something far more powerful. You need to observe them. The moment you observe the thought, you are no longer the thought. This is the technique the Stoics used, not meditation, not positive thinking, not distraction, observation. When a thought appears at 2 a.m., don't engage with it. Don't argue with it. Don't try to solve it. Just watch it. Notice that it's a thought, not reality, not truth, not prophecy, a thought. I'm worried about tomorrow's meeting. That's not a fact about tomorrow. That's a thought, appearing now. They probably think I'm stupid. That's not what they think. That's a thought, appearing now. Everything is going to fall apart. That's not the future. That's a thought, appearing now. When you observe a thought instead of believing it, something extraordinary happens. It loses its power. Not because you fought it, but because you stopped giving it your identity. You are not your thoughts. You are the one watching your thoughts. And that distinction, that's everything. So let's return to 2 a.m. You're lying in bed. Your mind is loud. But now, you understand what's happening. Your default mode network is active. Your cortisol is low. Your brain is scanning for threats. This isn't a malfunction. This is your mind doing exactly what it was designed to do. The question is, are you going to be in the noise, or are you going to observe the noise? Most people spend their whole lives trapped inside their thoughts. They believe every worry. They follow every spiral. They mistake mental noise for truth. But there's another way. What if you stopped treating your nighttime thoughts as problems to solve and started treating them as data to observe? This is what deep thinking actually is, not answering questions, asking better questions. At 2 a.m., when your mind is spinning, don't ask, how do I make this stop? Ask, what is my mind trying to protect me from? Don't ask, why can't I control this? Ask, what am I afraid will happen if I don't control this? Don't ask, what's wrong with me? Ask, what is this thought trying to tell me? Here's what you do. When you wake up at 2 a.m. and your mind won't stop, don't fight it. Don't get frustrated. Sit up. Place your feet on the floor. Feel the ground beneath you. And then, simply watch. Watch your thoughts the way you'd watch clouds moving across the sky. They appear. They shift. They disappear. You don't need to change them. You don't need to fix them. You just need to see them for what they are. Electrical signals, neural patterns, survival mechanisms, not truth. The moment you create distance between yourself and your thoughts, the moment you stop being the anxiety and start observing the anxiety, you've already won. Because you've remembered something your mind wants you to forget. You are not the storm. You are the one watching the storm. This is what the Stoics knew. This is what Marcus Aurelius practiced every sleepless night. This is what turns overthinking into deep thinking. Overthinking is noise without direction. Deep thinking is observation with purpose. Overthinking consumes you. Deep thinking transforms you. The night is not your enemy. It's the clearest time to see. Most people will spend their entire lives trapped inside their minds, believing every thought, following every worry, drowning in the noise. But some people will learn to do something different. They will learn to observe, not to silence the mind, not to control it, but to watch it, to create distance, to find clarity in the chaos, to transform the loudest hour into the quietest observation. If you're watching this at 2 a.m., if your mind won't shut up, if you feel trapped inside your own thoughts, you're not broken, you're awake. And now you know what to do. Welcome to the Mind Observatory. We are not here to silence the mind, we are here to observe it,